God lives in and among His church. The church itself is the house of God. This is the house of God. 1 Corinthians 3:16 and 17 says to the church, not to individuals. Now, because I get confused sometimes, because I think, when I read these verses in 1 Corinthians, I think about the temple of the Holy Spirit, that's me, right? So I'm reading about the temple, so it's me. But it's not me here. It's the body of believers. It's all of us in the church. Don't you realize that all of you together are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God lives in you? God will destroy anyone who destroys His temple. For the temple of God is holy, and you are the temple. So we're the temple of the living God, just as God said this also in Corinthians, I will dwell in them and walk among them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. He's with us. 2 Corinthians 6:16. So, get this. If we want to be where God is, we need to be in His church. Okay, pretty simple. But why don't you say that with me? If we want to be where God is, we need to be in His church. One more time. If we want to be where God is, we need to be in His church, His house. Thank you. He's built His body and every body on earth, every local body, with His own hands. That's 1 Peter 2:5. So what do we say to these people who say, we don't need the church? Appeal to them. Come. This is part of God's purpose. You're rejecting His pillar of truth. You can't be a part of that. If they're believers in time, they should respond. If they're unbelievers, they can't really respond. They need the gospel. But people who walk away, if you read 1 John, that's how we know that they're not believers, because they walk away and they don't come back. He chose her before the foundation of the world. This is His church. Ephesians 1:4 and 5. The Father paid for her by the blood of His own Son. Acts 20:28. Not just us individually. This is the body, the church. The church is where we remember His death. We had the Lord's table just last week. We preach the gospel as we do that. We preach the gospel to ourselves. We need it. We love it. The church is where we identify ourselves with Him, with His death. When we come together, we've been together as a body and watched people be baptized. They identify with Christ, and they're put under the water, identifying with Him in His death, and they're raised to newness of life as they come out of that water. Romans 6:3 and 4. We practice those two things, the ordinances, which are baptism and the Lord's table. So the church is designed to be the context in which we move from sinfulness to holiness, to where we're sanctified. We're made more like Christ. Ephesians talked about it with the washing of water of the Word.